Good evening. My name is Maurice Rayford. I will be moderating tonight's event. Tonight's event is our fifth town hall meeting, and it is around education. In front of you, you see you have a question that is asking, were you aware that the school board had a meeting with DeKalb County mayors? Um, with that question, we are not in contention with the city mayors having a meeting with the mayors, with the school board having a meeting with the mayors. We just see that was opportunity that the DeKalb County was missed out on for lack of representation. And what if the Southern DeKalb should have that same opportunity. In general speaking, that we have greater needs and for these services, and it stands for a reason that we should be able to meet and interact with our school board. Um, Tonight we did invite a school board member. However, it conflicted with the superintendent was actually giving a state of the district speech tonight. So they were unable to make it. But in the meantime, if you could go to the DeKalb School Georgia or comprehensive master plan, and there's a survey on there that you will be able to get out in regards to that event taking place tonight. And I'll just leave up the poll while we do the introduction. You can fill it out while I do the introduction. And it also goes with tonight's theme. We have three speakers tonight. Representative residents, as we usually have. Previous president of the very active nonprofit organization in education in Southern DeKalb Improvement Association Education, and also a past principal. Please note that any of our speakers that speak tonight are neutral on the issue of cityhood, and they are not for or against the cityhood movement. They're just here to speak on the facts of education, specifically going on in DeKalb County. And just a couple of reminders that we have going on. Next week, we will be discussing the opposing views to cityhood and hoping to hash out the conversation with the opposing members towards cityhood, and to see how that goes, if there's common ground that can be met on, or any questions that could be answered in opposition. Following that, our last town hall, we'll discuss the charter, and we will also post that after the discussion on our website. It is our website is cityofdekabgeorgia.com. Again, that website is cityofdekabga.com. It is cityofdekabga.com. Also, once our speakers are done, we will do a Q&A portion as normal. That is where you can ask questions to any speakers. You can put those questions in the Q&A section, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen anytime during the sessions, but they will be asked at the end of the session. I will do my best to phrase them the way that you put them, minus any grammatical errors. And I will also indicate who asked the question, just so it's transparent as to what the concerns that certain citizens may have. Tonight, we're going to do a little bit different. Usually we have Dr. Kathy Rice doing our introduction. Tonight, we're going to have Ms. Malika Wells doing our introduction. And a brief introduction on Ms. Malika Wells is she is a FAMU graduate, consultant, wife, minister, and mother of 4 homeschooled children. She is the president of the Stonecrest Citizens Coalition and citizens-led grassroots organization working to improve the quality of the Stonecrest residents and stakeholders through education, advocacy, action. She is also the past president of SDIAE, a nonprofit organization that has done numerous activities in Southern DeKalb in the K-12 educational area. And at this time, I will end the poll and show the results. And from there, I will bring in Miss Wells.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invitation to come and do something that I definitely think we should be doing more of, and that is community dialogue, community conversation. So welcome everyone to our conversation on tonight in community on a topic that I care deeply about, which is education. I'm going to invite you all to do something that I don't think we do enough of. I'm going to invite you to dream with me for a minute. If you want to close your eyes, you can do that. But I want you to dream and think about your ideal school and think about where that school is located, right? Think about some of the things that would be in that school. What does the school look like? Where is it? Who works there? How do they make you feel? Do you feel welcome when you go inside of that school? Are the students safe? Are they inspired? Are they challenged? Are they nurtured? Is the morale of the staff high? Do teachers like to stay? Do principals stay? Does the community feel supported and inspired and proud of the school that's in the community? As community members, we oftentimes think that that type of school only exists in the realm of our imagination and our dreams. We find out that there are millions of dollars allocated for education in our communities. And we're told by commissioners, by Board of Education and superintendents how those funds will be spent. But what if you were asked to dream and design your ideal school? Could you do it? So I'm glad that we're getting to have this conversation tonight about the importance of quality education, about what an ideal school would look like, about how we could get there, and about how parents are to be involved in those processes.
And thank you, Ms. Wells. And then that's exactly what we're going to talk about, what Ms. Wells laid out for us. Our next speaker is Mr. Lance Hammond. And with a short introduction of Mr. Lance, he is, my apologies. Mr. Lance Hammond is a business owner of 38 years residence of DeKalb County. He is accomplished community organization and believes in the city, in the power of unified community to transform itself. He has been involved with schools until now in the DeKalb County school system since his children were in schools until now. He believes that Southern DeKalb education goals will be realized when our community is destination of choice for young families seeking education for their children. He is married with grown children and 7 grandchildren. And with no further ado, let me introduce Mr. Lance Hammonds.
Thank you, Maurice. Education is really important. I think it kind of goes back for me is when I became a father. One of my goals was to, raise my child, taking responsibility for my family and those type of things. But I want you to kind of like Malika was saying, I like that old saying, thinking with the end in mind. So what would this thing look like if it were perfect, if it were the way we want it to be? And I remember when I came to DeKalb, DeKalb was the destination. My daughter was 2 years old, and I asked the realtor and asked other people, where should I be? Where can I get the best public education for my child? And being a responsible parent, I came to DeKalb County because that was the best place. So I think that's somewhat of a measure. How do we measure if we're getting there, if we're there? We need to do that. It's not always test scores. So I'll just say that. But I think parenting is key. I think we have to take responsibility for our children and our families and our schools. We have to take the responsibility for it because nobody's going to come and save us. The teachers are doing a phenomenal job. The administrators are doing a good job and those things, but we just have to work with them to get it done because ultimately it impacts us, the community. And the last thing I'll just say is that instead of talking about it, we talk about a lot of things, but how do we make it happen? How do we engage with our schools? We engage with them by first electing school board members. We engage with them by getting to know the principal at the schools. We get to know our teachers. And we just say, every chance we get, how can we help you make it better? And don't take no for an answer. We're here to make it better because my child, my most valuable asset, is what I need I need your help to help me educate my child, because I'm not leaving until we get this done. And so it's almost by any means necessary that we need to work with our schools and our administrators and to get the job done. And a lot of times that is through policy changes and staying involved. So we can do it, and it's really up to us to get this done. But big picture, family, and let's figure out a way to measure the results so we know when we're getting there. Thank you, Maurice.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hammond. And then with that being said, as far as everyone, we're speaking on how do we get there. Our last speaker is Dr. Greg Goodwin. Dr. Greg Goodwin is a retired DeKalb County High School principal with a heart for children. Prior to becoming a high school principal, he was a middle and high school social studies teacher and a baseball coach with over 30 years in academia. He is a legacy educator in training, deeds in action. He is a humble servant leader and focused on always on the children. And with that being said, I'll introduce our last speaker, Mr. Greg Goodwin.
Thank you, Mr. Rayford. First of all, I want to thank you for that honorary doctorate degree. I'm not a doctor, just Greg Goodwin. But Mr. Hammonds, I was blessed to be a part of DeKalb back in the 80s, when we indeed were thought of as the best and greatest school district in Metro Atlanta. Things have changed tremendously, but tonight I have been asked to talk about things that we can do better to make our school districts better. And I think the first, it always starts with quality teachers. And I said quality teachers, not qualified teachers. When I say quality teachers, I mean those teachers that are producing results and getting our children to move from A to B. I understand that all teachers are qualified or certified. They have to be to work in education, but that don't make them good teachers. I am disappointed in the dinosaur way that we still have in education to eliminate poor teachers. I think that needs to be changed. There has to be an easy way to dismiss those non-qualified teachers that are doing a disservice to our children. That's the first thing I think we need to do. Second thing I think everyone needs to understand is that discipline drives education. It drives academics. It's important that we have discipline in our schools. I think that too often the powers that be are hesitant to allow the principals and administrators to discipline students. But our teachers will be the first to tell you that if they have a disciplined classroom, more education takes place, students learn more. If a student is undisciplined, that student needs to be removed so learning can take place. And I think we need to assist our teachers in that area. The third area that I think is critical is parent involvement. And I know that's an ideal situation. All parents can't come to the schoolhouse readily, that some of them work 2 or 3 jobs. Some of them don't have transportation. But with this virtual situation that we're in, I think we can reach parents. I do think that parents inherently are concerned about their education of their child, but I think we have to reach those parents where they are. We have to get them involved. All the data shows that students do better when a parent or guardian is involved in their academic lives. We also have to have resources in our schools. We spend a lot of money on things in schools. We always have, but we need people. I think we don't have enough counselors. We don't have enough social workers. A lot of schools lack school nurses, and that's about resources. We don't pay nurses, we're not going to get nurses. It's just simple as that. Nurses not going to leave the medical field where they make X amount of dollars to come because they love children. You know, they want to be compensated for their worth. And we have to change our pay scales for get nurses in our buildings. And I think it's critical that we do that. We also need school psychologists. Unfortunately, with this COVID situation, our children have experienced almost 2 years of not learning social skills. I mean, that's a major situation to me. And I think we have to meet those children to get them where they need to be. On another level, I think that our administrators in our buildings are bogged down with a lot of paperwork, a lot of meetings. I don't see why it's necessary to pull administrators out of the building during a school day for a meeting. I think they need to be in the schoolhouse, evaluating teachers, roaming those halls, maintaining order so that we can have learning going on. That's been my experience, and I think that we can do a better job. Last thing, and this has always been a problem for me, starting teacher salary. You know, if we want to attract folks, we got to raise the starting teacher salary. If not, they're going other places. And there's a myriad of things that we can do better. Are we willing to do it? I think we've been rehashing all of these problems. I retired from education in 2015, and I talked to my colleagues that are still involved, and we still have the same problems that we had when I left. So we know the problems. What are we going to do to resolve them and solve them to make this a better situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. And from this part, we're going to go into our Q&A portion. As I stated again, all the panelists will come back on. At the bottom of your screen, you should see, if you scroll over your screen, if it's not there, just scroll over your screen under your picture. It should have a Q&A session, and that's where you can type in your Q&A, and we'll ask those to the panelists. But the first question we're going to start with is I'm going to relaunch this poll. We'll share the results again, just for this poll. As far as people that were aware of the meeting with the DeKalb school board members and the mayors, and off of this poll, I'm just going to ask our panelists a question. With basically your feelings and anyone about the school board meeting with the mayors, and does it make a difference to the parents in the unincorporated DeKalb? How does that make a difference with them meeting with the mayors and certain parts being unincorporated being left out? And any panelist can answer that question. And Mr. Lance, I think you're answering, but
There we go. I don't think it really makes a difference. I think it's important that they're doing it, because so many years everybody's on their own silos. The cities did their things, the schools did their things, and county government did their things. And schools impact each one of those silos. So now they're starting to have somewhat of a conversation. So that meeting was a good gesture. The real meat and potatoes comes in is, are they actually going to do something with it? And I'll just give you an example of a quick one. When the city of Stonecrest was started, they were intentional when they said that we're going to have an education committee in our city, because they saw that the impact of schools on their city was great, and their city can only grow if those schools improve. So they set about to organize with the school district to really actively get engaged with them, and it was through a volunteer program. So to answer your specific question, I think this meeting with the mayors was a good gesture. I don't think it's going to have an overriding impact unless the people on each side of that equation says, okay, we had a meeting, now let's do something that impacts the school in a positive way.
I definitely second what Lance just shared. I do think it was a good starting point. And I think it could be good for the people for people in South DeKalb, period, because they see that the school is interested in creating some dialogue at a different level. So hopefully folks will dial into that, tune into that now that they've been made aware, and we'll see organizations start to contact and reach out to the school more often to have and set up similar conversations with the superintendent and her cabinet.
And this next question, it piggybacks off of what Mr. Goodwin was talking about. What are your thoughts? Anyone can answer this. It kind of aligns with what Mr. Goodwin was talking about. What are your thoughts about the metaverse classroom and eliminate more brick and mortar schools? And that's from Dr. Lisa Carmer. I hope I said that right.
I think this is one of the cases where you just kind of have to follow the research. I don't know what the research is saying, but I know, just take the example of, where we are now with COVID, and we have classroom and virtual. Some kids do better in the brick and mortar buildings, and some kids do better virtual. What I'm hearing and seeing is that the kids who are on top of their game, the high achievers, it really doesn't matter where they are. They can do it at home, they can do it in the building, they can do it on the bus, they can do it in the car. But those average students that need a little extra help, they need help from their teammates, they need to look at the teacher, and the teacher can respond back to what that individual child is struggling with and explain it so that individual child can get it. Those kids need that. And maybe they can get that out on the grass somewhere. I don't know.
I think there's always, I don't know much about the metaverse school. So I love that Lance seemed to know a little bit more about that. But I think there'll always be a need for a brick and mortar school. I think school is so much more than a place for middling to average students to have an opportunity to be in front of a teacher. School represents community too. School represents your peers. School represents, sometimes for some community members, a warm meal. School can represent so many things. School represents oftentimes recreational activities and team building sports. So much more than that. I think there will, and for some parents, it represents a way for them to be safe, right? For their children to be safe while they're employed and working and doing other things. For stay-at-home parents, it could represent, I mean, this is real talk, right? It represents a break from the child during the course of the day. So I think there will always be a need for a brick and mortar school in our communities.
And can I add on to what Malika just said? There is a movement going across the country called the community school movement. And just think about back in the day, and most of you guys not old enough, but back in the day, when you went to a high school in your neighborhood, you didn't go all over the county. That was your high school. That was your team. Those were your teachers that lived in your community. And I can't prove that we had better education, but we have that sense of, we have more of a sense of community because our children are all over DeKalb County. Just imagine if our kids went to all of our kids who live in the Southwest District went to Southwest. First of all, we'd have the baddest football team in the county, like we used to, but also we would all be migrating toward that building for services. With the community school concept, you would have nurses, health, everything that the community needs could be focused towards that building and pull people towards that building. And that adds to the value of the school and having everybody engaged with the school, because that's where you go. Where you gonna be at? We at the school, we at the school, we at the school.
I just think that what we just experienced, or what we're still experiencing with the pandemic, we had so many parents that in spite of the pandemic, wanted their kids to be in the school. I think the brick and mortar schools are gonna be here.
Either for education or just taking a break, huh?
There's no doubt about it.
Hey,
All for lunch and breakfast.
True. And you know, I don't want to take that lightly what Mr. Goodwin just said, breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
a lot of kids, that's when they get that meal. That's why the school district over the summertime, when kids were out, they make a special effort because they recognize that if they don't get it at school, they don't get it at all.
That's correct. And when we talked earlier about Malika's ideal schools, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have ideal children. You know, all the kids got different issues.
Well, we could debate that, right? We could, because then I would ask the question, what is the ideal child? Is the ideal child the one who will sit all the time? Is the ideal child the one who's the most obedient? Is the ideal child the one who passes all the score or tests with the highest scores? Because then we're getting into the debate about ideal child. And I don't think we want to do that.
I do know the ideal child is not a hungry child.
That's true.
That was my point.
We're in agreement. Yes.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Lisa, she asked another question, and I want to kind of tweak it. Just being a parent myself, she asked about if they had robotic teachers one-on-one. If they did that approach, what would that look like? But I also want to add to that, which we recently seen, and y'all sort of hinted to during COVID, the technology gap in Southern DeKalb and certain neighborhoods that are similar to Southern DeKalb. How do we approach that technology?
You know, if you're talking about people having access to the internet, from a DeKalb County school perspective, I think it's not a lack of resources. Our budget is $1 billion. If a kid lets the right person know, and that should be that person in the building, the principal, the teacher, everybody down the line that connects with that kid, say, okay, Johnny doesn't have internet access. The district has hotspots that they can give a kid. So you can get it, but it's just having access to the information to get the resources. And to me, that's where the community comes in. We make it known in our community groups that, hey, if you know anybody who doesn't have a hotspot or whose internet gets cut off on a regular basis, call the school and tell them you want a hotspot. And sometimes that's all it takes is for somebody who knows to say, hey, call the school and tell them you need a hotspot.
And again, if you have any questions, you can put them down below in the Q&A portion. You can ask those questions. And I'm just going to ask a question just on the positive side. And Mr. Lance spoke to it earlier. What's your favorite thing? I think all of you are in the DeKalb County area. What's your favorite thing about the DeKalb County school systems?
Anybody else want to start?
Be my guest.
Well,
Maurice, I kind of feel like you put us on the spot.
I can start. I mean, in my experiences, we've had kids that have gone to every higher institute there is possible from our DeKalb County school. And we've also had kids go to the penitentiary.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of the public schools. You know, we've done some great things in DeKalb with our kids. We've got judges, we've got doctors, we got lawyers, we got plumbers, we've got electricians. I mean, we got kids that have done extremely well with the DeKalb County education. So that's what I'm proud of.
Yeah, I'll second that. There are a lot of kids in our system doing a great job, and I think one of the things with DeKalb County schools is that you have access if you take advantage of it. You know, if you go to a PTA meeting, if you go to a school, if you go to a school board meeting, and I tell people all the time, if you take 10 friends to a school board meeting, wear different colors, wear the same color t-shirt, you can get any doggone thing you want in DeKalb County. Just it don't take 20, take 10. And just say, I'm mad about this and I want something to happen. And you know, hopefully you can do that with the principal at the school, but if the principal don't give you what you want, you take it to the next level. Now, in general, the district is going to say, if you go to the district without talking to the principal, they're going to send you back to the principal.
I think, Mr. Hammond, that's where it should start.
Yeah, that's
where it should start. I mean,
Absolutely.
They take those 10 people and go to a PTA meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of schools, that'll be the first time they had 10 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Now, let's
know,
be realistic.
what's interesting about that, because I feel two ways about that. It's good that if you get community members together, you will be able to advocate for yourselves to affect change. That's good that the school would be responsive to a group of people coming together to affect change. But that doesn't take as much into consideration what the system is ideally designed to do, right? So the public education is designed to provide the best possible education for our tax dollars. This is just my little human brain, right? Thinking this. So I'm a parent, I'm working, I'm doing multiple things. When am I? We talked about that earlier, right? About how we get parents involved. I'm working and doing multiple things. I've got to manage my getting food into the house. If I'm married, I'm also managing a relationship with a spouse. If I have multiple children, I'm managing relationships with multiple people and trying to give them what they need. If I'm also working, I'm managing my job. And if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm managing a business. So all of these things. And on top of that, if I have an issue, I need to grab a whole bunch of people to go in and effect change. That can be problematic. So I would see that, I don't see that as a simple asset for our county. Ideally, what I would like to see is things already put in place because of the incredible minds and the incredible resources that the county has, the district has at its fingertips to create an environment that I don't have to harass anybody, right? And you can be put into multiple, and I've experienced this, right? So I'm a homeschooling parent. I live in DeKalb County. I'm homeschooling by choice. So, and I know other homeschooling parents that live in DeKalb County. We're homeschooling by choice because we put our ideal children into the school system. Maybe not the teacher's ideal student or the principal's ideal student, but my ideal student I put into the system, and it did not work. And I did not feel heard, nor did I really feel seen without the agitation. How often do we want to have to be contentious and to agitate for change? Some of the issues that I think that we have in our county are old. Like you said, you were talking to some colleagues who are still working, and you were like, why are we still dealing with that? Why indeed?
Well, let me just make a comment here. We make the assumption that not just with schools, with government, we make the assumption that they know what we want and they know what we need. Nobody knows your child better than you do. So if you don't tell somebody else what your child needs, and typically what your child needs, somebody else's child needs. And so if we can't make the assumption that they know what needs to be done. I think teachers and administrators, they know how to run a building, they know teach a subject, but there may be some things that my child needs that I need to express to them that, hey, this is important to me. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And I go back to Malcolm X, whoever said it, we got to make sure our kids get whatever they need by any means necessary. If it's an email and it gets it done, fine. If it takes going to a school board meeting and it gets it done, fine. But I think we have to be cognizant that these people need our input to make it better. I mean, because they can make assumptions all day long, and they can make it wrong, and they can get it wrong. But if we're telling them all the time what we want, then they can use their professional expertise to give us what we want, in an educational or productive manner. But I think it's important for us to let them know what we want by any means necessary. And every parent does it their own way, I think.
I agree with you. I do think, I'm sorry, Mr. Goodwin. I do think that we need to be telling the schools what we want. And I think that what we have in DeKalb County is a disconnect between parents and the schools, the district, as far as what we want and wanting to hear it. Because it's one thing for me to be telling you, what I want. And there's another thing for you to be listening and to actually give it to me. So I am not in disagreement that we should be advocating. Like I'm all for the advocating, but I'm saying that it takes a lot for parents to do that. And I'm saying that we should not simply rely and task parents with the consistent type of agitation and advocacy. I'm saying that it's a mutual process. The school district also should go hard. And I'm talking from the experience of one who's been on the PTA and been on the PAC and done all the things. So you see lots of different receptivities to that, and it varies widely.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's going to vary wide in a district as large as DeKalb. As you know, in any organization, there's going to be ineffective leadership sometimes, and that has to be addressed. And it won't be addressed unless you point that out. So that we have to have your involvement. I mean, 90% of the people are probably doing the right thing, but that 10% have to be weeded out. And like Mr. Hammond said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and in numbers, things will happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'll just give you an example. Every time they try to shut down a school in North DeKalb, I won't say exactly where, but I've seen it. They were trying to close the school, and they showed up like with 75 people in red T-shirts, and they consumed the whole 30 minutes of talk time.
That's correct.
They all said the same thing. You know, that school is still open.
That's correct.
And that kind of goes to our next question. And this way, everybody, I want to start it off with Mr. Goodwin. And it kind of leads right into it because questions are starting to flow in now. It's from Mr. B. Prothers. And I'm going to put actually a couple questions into one. What are your thoughts on smaller classroom size? What would be a good classroom size? And then I'm going to compound that question. What do you think about school choice? And I guess that would go still into that classroom side.
I'll talk about, I mean, the ideal classroom. I mean, all the data tells you that smaller classrooms equates to better learning. If you got 20 kids in the class as opposed to 35, you're going to be able to talk to those kids individually. We got 35 kids. That's a lot. That's a lot, particularly when you have differentiated learners in that classroom, and you do. One of the worst things I saw that happens when we added all learners into one class, and I didn't think that was a good idea. Again, but who was I? But a paid employee. I didn't think that helped us at all. But smaller class sizes would be ideal, in my opinion.
And I don't know if you have any thoughts on school choice or charter schools or anything. If not, any other.
I have some choices, but I'd rather not discuss that. I'm a public school guy.
Understandable.
I mean, it's not fair. The plan, they can do things that public schools can't do. They can make people come to PTA. They can, so I don't want to talk about that.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Lance, Miss Malika, Ms. Wells, you have any thoughts on ideas, school sizes?
To echo what Principal Goodwin was saying, is that smaller classrooms are better. I work with the DeKalb NAACP, and we've often thought, and we're trying to come up with a policy or a recommendation for the school district, basically to say, if you have children in need in a certain area that needs, they have higher needs. I don't know if they're academically needs or whatever. Those should be the specific classrooms you should make no more than 15. Just kind of give them a bite-sized chew. So the high achievers, maybe they can handle a larger group. But I mean, that's something that we can say, if you have a African-American male or female that has on the edge between a C and a D, they don't need to be in a room with 35 people. They need to be in a room with 15 to 20 people. So we don't make the district do it all in one big bite. We have to be specific with our ask and give them an opportunity. Now, smaller classrooms mean you need more teachers.
No doubt.
So Mr. Goodwin, when he's putting his schedule together, And he's got all these kids that he doesn't know how many going to be there until he opens the door on that first day of school. He's got to staff it. Now, if he doesn't have the teachers, he got to put those kids somewhere.
And we've done that for years.
Yeah. As far as school choice, you can have a choice, but if you choose to, you pay for it yourself. I paid for private school for a few years for my daughter. That was my choice. So if you decide to go that route, don't take my money with you. But the interesting thing that a lot of folks have figured out to do is if you're an engaged parent and you have a group of engaged parents, you can make that neighborhood school as good or better than a private school. Because most of our teachers in the public school system, they have higher degrees, they're better trained, so they have more resources. So if you focus on your neighborhood school, working with that principal or that building leader, you can transform your building into that private school that you want. And like Mr. Goodwin is saying, not all teachers are created equal. If you get a bum teacher, make it known. Make it known to the principal. Hey, my child doesn't have a whole semester to suffer with this teacher. I need y'all to fix this now or take my child out of here. And that sounds harsh, and I'm not beating up on teachers, but
Not at all.
my job is not to the teacher. My job is to my child.
And it's not personal. You can't take it personal. All industries have those individuals that shouldn't be there.
Right.
So it's not beating up on teachers. I mean, we're talking about education.
Right.
And we have a question from Dr. Lisa. It's actually a question and a statement. First part of the question is, what are the 3 biggest changes over the next decade you see for DeKalb County schools? And then the statement is, the district will analyze demographics to know how redistricting might play out. The funding for the master plan, which exceeds $1 billion, would come from a combination of local tax dollars and CARES Act funding spreading over 10 years. What is more cost-effective? Higher property taxes. School is a part of your property taxes. People will not be able to afford to live in DeKalb. I guess we can tackle the first question if you want to get into the weeds with the statement also, but there was also a question in there. What are the 3 biggest changes you see over the next decade, which can include the $1 billion being added to it and property tax?
Well, let's tackle the $1 billion first. Who is making the decision on how that money will be spent? I don't personally think they have enough people on that committee to decide how that money will be spent. I think that in itself is a problem. I know in the past we've made several mistakes about zoning at 10 years out. That's why some of our schools are overcrowded and others only have 800 kids. I think we can do a better job personally. Again, that's above my pay grade, but I would seek out those people that are in the DeKalb County zoning that have these answers. They would certainly be at my table. I wouldn't ask former principals to sit at that table. How would I know about zoning? I want experts to do that. That's just my opinion, because they did ask when I was the principal, us to be on these committees. And I'm just, I don't know.
Yeah.
My expertise is education.
Yeah. And I'll tell you about the $1 billion, okay? There is a budget process with public hearings. You can go online and whatever the proposed budget is, you can see it. Now, it takes a minute to sort through it, but if you bring it up on your computer and say if your school is Arabia Mountain and you do a word search for Arabia and just click it, you'll see all the dollars that are being spent at your particular school. Now, if you have a specific need and you want to see it spent, you do have a moment to say something. Who establishes the budget, who approves the budget? Your school board member is responsible for that $1 billion. And they're ultimately responsible. The superintendent proposes that budget, but they could move that thing around and do whatever they want to with it.
And they do.
And they do. But I'm just saying is, we as citizens have a choice. That information is there. So what they'll say to you is that, man, we had 5 public meetings and we had 5 people to show up.
I agree.
And so as community people, what we need to do is when that budget comes out, we need to say, what is it that your school doesn't have? What do you want to see more of at your school? And just go make some noise and just say, and to your school board member, say, I voted for you. I want to see some better paint on our building. Where is it in the budget where we got some more paint? Where is it in the budget? And we get this information from talking to our principals. Mr. Principal, how many teachers do you need? How many teachers do we need at our school? How many counselors are we short at our school? I mean, you don't have to get the principal involved, but when you make your ask, from your building what that building needs because you're involved in that building. And so when that budget comes up, say, I don't care what y'all do with all them other schools. I need you to take care of the school where my child goes. And I know people will get on me about taking care of my child, but it starts with me taking care of my child. And if I take care of my child, there's other kids in my child's room. There are more kids, other kids in my child's building. So if I start there and branch out, then it'll go across the district. But it's got to start somewhere with people, because nobody, I figured this out a long time ago, nobody loves my child more than me. There's a lot of good kids out there, but they ain't as good as mine. I love mine the most. So I'm fighting for mine, and I hope all the other kids, all her friends, get the benefit of me fighting for mine. And I'll share with other parents, this is how I'm fighting. Hey, come join me at this meeting. Let's go to PTA meeting. We just have to drag people along with us. And we may need to look at alternate methods of having these meetings. I mean, it's not always going to the building. So since we've been doing Zoom or whatever, maybe we've learned that our PTA meetings could be a combination of in-person and virtual. So we just have to broaden the perspective on how we do things now. And like I say, technology is good. We just have to use it more.
I wanted to say something. It's totally not on this topic. I think y'all completely handled that. But I had some time to think more about where I see the assets in DeKalb County. What do I think are DeKalb County schools? I think, and forgive me for not introducing this earlier, we have some incredible human assets in DeKalb County schools. That needs to be said. When we were in DeKalb County schools, we did have access to some incredible teachers. My son's pre-K teacher was phenomenal. I will never forget Ms. Daniels. My daughter's 5th grade teacher. So there were some incredible people that we have had access to along the way. And attracting and retaining those people is definitely attributed to the school. The district.
Yeah.
I think any principal wants to retain those assets. I mean, we got good folks, you want to keep them. Mm-hmm. But if you have issues like we've had, with discipline and those type of things, it's hard to retain those teachers. So I fought, when my 9 years as a principal, I fought to keep my folks.
And I think that's a good point. Like we have a couple questions, and I want to thank all our panelists. You can stay on. We should have a couple questions around cityhood, and I just want to pose those to Dr. Rice because all our panelists are neutral as far as cityhood. And so, but I want to thank Mr. Goodwin, Ms. Wells, Mr. Hammond for joining us tonight. This is actually a great discussion. I was just letting it just go because I was liking how the dialogue was going. And so I'm gonna ask a couple questions to Miss Catherine, Dr. Catherine. Y'all can stay on, and then from here we'll go into our poll questions. Dr. Catherine, it's basically around funding, and I'm gonna wrap them all up into one like I do sometimes. What happens to taxpayers' funding for DeKalb County schools that are not included in the proposed City of DeKalb cityhood? And then also, how will the City of DeKalb schools be funded? And the last question, I'm gonna wrap them, give you all of them at one time. How will the City of DeKalb address the problems that currently have been identified in the school system?
Okay. So there's one realization with all three of those questions, which is that the DeKalb School Board is a totally separate, independent entity from local government, whether it be the county or the city. The city or the county cannot intrude on that independent entity. For every dollar that you pay in taxes, generally between 65 to 75% of that dollar goes to your school system. Only 25 cents goes to local government. And so with that 75 cents that the school board gets, they decide what they're going to do with that money. And the city and the county have no say in that whatsoever. When it comes to the 25 cents that's left to government, it still behooves government to develop a relationship with the school board because that affects our children. So one of the ways that a city can interact with a local government, one of the ways that a city can interact with the school board is for them to meet, to discuss, for example, businesses, which is definitely a significant part of local government. How can they supplement or how can they enhance or how can they support activities that are going on at the school? So a lot of times when you see those extra amenities at schools outside of Southern DeKalb, a lot of that has come from dollars that businesses contribute. I think another way that in particular, a city of DeKalb can contribute to the DeKalb Board of Education is by protecting the boundaries. Because right now, our boundaries are fluid. And the city of Atlanta can come in and annex property as it did 2 or 3 years ago, where the DeKalb Board of Education lost a lot of money, but only a few students went over. When we form a city, that forms a firm boundary that neither Fulton County nor the city of Atlanta can come in and disturb those boundaries. So I think even just for that reason alone, forming a city is worthy. And then in general, I just think it's a good idea for the two entities to cooperate because employers hire people who graduate from high school and they want good quality employees, which means good students. So it is to the benefit of both to supplement it. Finally, in our budget, in our feasibility study, it was estimated that 27 million excess revenue would be had. And so one of the things that we put into our $27 million budget as we dreamed out what would be in there was to have maybe something like computer centers, a computer center that would go in each district where kids could go and supplement what they learn in high school. So there are different ways. I mean, that was our dream. You might have a different dream. And so the CAPU can come together and discuss what kind of dream they have for their area that can help supplement kids that are in K through 12. So there are various ways that the city can be a benefit financially and in other ways to have a relationship with the school system. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. And with that being said, we concluded our portion of the Q&A. Again, I want to thank all our speakers for coming out tonight. We were able to get through all the questions, get thorough answers. And so just want to thank you again. And from here, we're just going to ask a couple questions to our attendees tonight, and then we will wrap it up after these couple questions are asked. And I just want to share one more time the poll from earlier about the school board meeting, because I know a couple of people weren't here earlier. It was just asking, were you aware of the meeting with mayors? And our next question is, are you aware of the, and I'm going to give you a couple minutes while I read it out. Are you aware of the advantages that come with forming a city? Yes, no, don't know. And then with forming a city, which do you believe to be true? 27 million in excess revenue, 100% benefit from SPLOSH and other taxes. Much more community engagement through community planning units, a focus and emphasis on economic development, better government, 2 4-year term limits, external audits, ethic boards with citizens appointed, and just give you a couple minutes to answer these questions, just so we can get feedback and help to further the advancement of DeKalb County and Southern DeKalb County. Yeah, currently we're at 50% participation. So just give you another minute or so, just to get the answers in or get your feedback in. And I'm about to close this, the first question, which was, do you understand the advantages of forming a city? And also, what do you what do you believe to be true? And on the second question, here's all of the above, choice 6, all of the above. If you see that, if you think it's more than one choice that you see on the list for this. Okay, and I'm gonna close out the survey. It looks like we have majority of attendees have filled it out. And just in transparency as always, sharing the results to make sure everybody understand. And so with our first question, it is, do you understand the advantages of forming a city? 71% stated yes, 24% stated no, and then we have 6% stated they currently don't know. And that's kind of what these are for, to help understand the advantages and just different things that are going on within inside of our county. And then what do you believe to be true? It looks like it was kind of spread out. We have our highest is there's much more community engagement through the CAPUs, followed by the 27 million in excess revenue and the 100% benefit of SPLOSH and other taxes. And then our lowest were focused on emphasis on economic development, better government. And since we do have a spread, it is kind of all, it is the all of the above, which was at 24%. The cityhood will encompass all of those aspects of the answer. And we see that that was spread out. So we have an understanding there. And then our next poll question is, what if you could choose your ideal city, what is the most important things that it would contain? Small businesses, that would be like you have little boutiques, different things like that in a city. Would that be ideal for you? Up to date, innovative technology. I know we have smart cities. Would that be something that's ideal for you? Great transportation, like people like Martyr can get around. And then you have lots of cultural activities as festivals in the city, different stuff like you go down to the jazz festival or different things like that, having your city where we have that. And then we also have live, work, play areas. An example of that would be the Battery, Atlantic Station, and then honest ethic leadership is the last choice. And your city can encompass all of these things. We just want to know, what's the most important thing for you? What would be the ideal city? And I just leave this open for a couple. Looks like a lot of people have already filled it out. Leave it open for a minute or so, just so everyone can get back their feedback and input on what that ideal city would look like. And I will close this in a second. Okay, and again, sharing just some transparency. It looks like the top result was 43%. One if you live, work, play areas, and just per the cab does have a lot of space for those type of live, work, play areas. Followed by small, unique businesses and up-to-date technology, and then we have great transportation, cultural activities, and honesty and ethical leadership. Which cultural activity probably might fall in that live, work, play area. So 2 and 1. And then our last question is in regards to our next meeting, just to get idea of where everyone is at. And it is, are you for or against forming a city? Yes would be for, that's choice 1. 2 against, or you currently on the fence and currently don't know where you're standing on cityhood and need more information. And then the follow-up question is, if you were for, what is the main reason you are for forming a city? Back to the question of what would your ideal city look like? More economic development. My leadership will live in my area. More control over zoning. Better code enforcement. All taxes will go to my benefit. Better public safety. And then other. And then the last question is, if you answer you are opposed or on the fence of the city, what is your main reason for thinking this way? I think my taxes will rise. I think the city is too hard. I think it's just another layer of government. I don't want to lose my neighborhood culture, or I think we'll have bad leadership. I'll just give a couple minutes, just a couple questions. Give a couple minutes to answer this question. And just while you answer this question, just as we stated in the beginning, next week we will have the conversation with the opposing view, just to give both sides a chance to talk and maybe find middle ground and see what, according to these answers, what are some of those hesitancies or which are drawing you being opposed to the city. So we have that. Followed by that, we will have our charter meeting, town hall, which we will go over the charter. That is February 9th. And then following that is when we're going to do similar to this, but it will be breakout rooms, and it will be broken down into CAPUs, basically helping to develop community engagement. And this will basically, all the topics that we've gone over, from public safety, education, economic development, it'll allow you to come together, even with, we didn't touch on it, but code enforcement, just coming together and being able to talk, open dialogue. I know the panel, they give you the information, we can think on it, we're able to address issues through what our panelists say, find pros that are in our neighborhood, and how we can further develop our community for a better community. So that's on the 16th. That's on the 16th, and that will basically come back and there'll be a difference, so everybody will be able to get in and basically voice their opinions around the concerns that we may have. And also you can go to the website, Cityhood DeKalb GA, sign up if you want to participate in helping. And I've been talking for a minute, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this poll out. I know it's getting close to bedtime and dinner time. And Miss Rice will close us out. So again, I will share the results. If no more are coming in, share the results, and Dr. Rice will come in. So with those results, we have 58% that are for, 25% that are against, and 17% that do not know. The people that were for, the highest result was more economic development, and then it was followed by other. And on our on the Cityhood DeKalb, you can also reach out there and email there and identify what that other may be. Followed by all taxes will go to the benefit, and then better code enforcement, and my leadership will live in my area. The individuals that were against or opposing or on the fence, their main reason was thinking another level of government. Also, they with 33%, thinking taxes will rise, and then 8% is thinking. Well, my apologies. Is another layer of government, followed by or tied with other. And again, you can go to the website, send an email, and fill out what that other is. And I apologize, I wasn't even sharing the results. But yeah, and I was explaining so you can scroll through it. But another layer of government is 33%, other is 33%. And you can go to the website again or send an email and advise what that other is. Well, we kind of address that in the next meeting and also in future meetings. And then 25% was, I think my taxes will go up. But with that portion, I want to thank everyone for coming out. And it was enjoyment moderating with our speakers tonight. And I will pass it over to Dr. Rice to close us out tonight.
Thanks, Maurice. I will be brief. First of all, I just want to say a thank you to our guests. Malika Wells, I loved her vision of an exemplary school and how she described it as a warm environment where all of the teachers, the staff, the layout are welcoming to children. Lance said something that I won't forget. He said, you don't have to pay for private school. Get other like-minded parents, go down to the school and let them know what you want. Get involved and make sure it happens. And then you can have your own private school, which is your neighborhood school. And Mr. Greg Goodwin, enjoyed the fact that he told it like it was throughout the whole time. He talked about the quality of teachers, not the quantity. And they all may have degrees, but that doesn't necessarily make them quality. So I appreciate that. We are the DeKalb Cityhood Movement, or DCM for short. We have been holding these weekly town hall meetings since Wednesday, December 29th. And we've been holding them on the issues that you said were important to you. The purpose of these meetings is twofold. We want to strengthen and organize Southern DeKalb. And we felt we could do this in two ways. The first was to hold meetings on issues that are important to residents in Southern DeKalb. Since we started these meetings, we've been averaging about 86 registrants per town hall. We consider that a good start because in many areas, there is no homeowners association or organization. So we are beginning to bring people together. And for that being an average, that's a good number. The second thing we wanted to do was to organize. We want to do this for a variety of reasons, not just for the city, but for voting, for talking on issues. If Lance is right, not if, Lance is right. I think all of the speakers said if you organize and go down and ask for what you want, then the squeaky wheel gets the squeaky wheel. Am I saying this right? The squeaky wheel gets what they want. That's what I want to end up saying. So as Maurice said, when we finish these town halls, that's the next step we're going to go into. So I have two things I want to ask of you. Number one, I want you to come back to these they won't be town halls anymore, they'll be organizing meetings. So come back when we finish our last one after February 9th. The second thing I want to ask of you is I want you to call your representative and tell them you want to vote on whether you want a city. Just consider what we're doing, and then consider the last time that people organized residents around taking care of the issues we're interested in. So the last thing I want to bring up is you supporting our efforts. Our website is cityofdekabga.com, and we'll need funds to carry out the work. We'll need funds to advertise, to organize to people about what we're doing. We're going to need funds to get people organized and to come to meetings and have the materials there that will help them understand and be educated better. So if you can go to our website, I'll repeat it, cityofdekabga.com, cityofdekalbga.com, and make a donation. We'd appreciate it. We are the DeKalb Cityhood Movement, and we are here for you. Have a great evening, and thank you for attending this meeting and caring about our community. Take care.